So what we're going to have here today is basic foil highlights. The purpose for basic foil highlights is to add lightness and brightness to hair that is just naturally colored. There's many reasons why we do this. It's to add body, help to add body to fine hair. If we have a oily scalp problem, the highlights will actually help to absorb the oil, eliminating that problem from the hair. It adds dimension to the hair. The more colors you add with your foils, the more dimension you get in that hairstyle. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with blocking our mannequin into sections or panels. Basic foil highlights has 5 sections to it. There's 1 on each side, 1 on the top, and 2 along the back. The one where we find our part on the top is where the hair begins to separate in its direction, where it comes forward and where it grows back. From that point center to the center bottom, we take a straight line. Very important that it be in the center, so we have balance for our foils as we move up the head. From that point, we will ask our client to put her chin down so that we are working in a much better, comfortable position. To start the foils, we start with our section in the back, either or, it does not matter which one we start. And we start, very importantly, with a diagonal down parting, starting approximately 1/8 of an inch up from the center back down to the corner of the bottom of the hair, the nape. The reason why we maintain a diagonal is so that the hair foils will look natural. If they are parallel, as that hair moves, we would see straight lines through the hair. Using a diagonal, as the hair moves, it will fall naturally and we will not see any lines through the hair. So from this subsection that we have, maintaining approximately a 1/8 inch section throughout the entire foiling process would yield us about 60 to 70% brightness of lightness through the hair, giving us a nice bright look. We're going to use fine weaves in our foil. Fine weaves gives a much more scattered, natural look of the highlight over the head as opposed to doing chunkier pieces. To weave the hair, we lift the hair parallel to the floor. We do not weave with it laying flat. We lift it parallel to the floor, keeping our comb along the very top part of the surface. We will weave small little fine pieces following the diagonal of our parting. Lifting the hair up, we see the weaving creates, if we keep it close to the top, it will create a nice straight edge for us, in which we then take our foil. We see we have a shiny side and a dull side. The dull side has a fold on the top. We put the fold on the top gently and just gently place our hand on the foil to hold the foil. We take a dollop of color and we apply it to that hair, making sure that it will stick. Gently lifting the hair, the foil, and applying the rest of the color. When applying the color at the root area, do not apply above the fold. Hold the foil in its place so that it will stay. We gently fold the foil up with a little flick of the thumbs in half. We can then place our comb and fold it up again. Using the end of our comb, we will take it, fold it over, and then fold it over again on the other side. Leaving the hair underneath not to be colored, and then this foil has the color in it. Our next section we take, I am going to move to the other side. Mimicking what I did on the other side with a diagonal down, go from the corner, meeting the part in the center at approximately 1/8 of an inch. Comb the hair, again with the comb. At the very top of the section, we will weave fine pieces out to be foiled. Our straight diagonal underneath, lift the hair so you can see it. Place the foil on that parting, and again, hold the foil with your hand. Putting the color on it, lifting, and gently applying that color. Going to the root. Folding the foil up, again with that light little flick of the thumbs. Folding it up again, folding it in, and folding it in. I will repeat that process, maintaining that same diagonal as I did prior, 1/8 of an inch up. Very nice, straight, clean part. And we will again go in and slightly weave very fine weaves from the top of that section. Secure the foil and be sure we get it right at the fold line. Gently folding it up. Folding it up again. Folding it in. Folding it in. When we fold the sides of our foil, it is very important that we fold it on the outside of our section. If we fold it too narrow, it will drag the hair into the foil, creating a dark root and a line of demarcation. I'm going to move to the other side, and I do the first 3 foils, working back and forth from one side to the other, because we have a very narrow area here, and if we do one side first, we will not have enough room to work. Once I have my 3rd set, then I can just work from one side up to the top of the ear, and then go back to the other side and work that side to the top of the ear. Here we have the back completed. To the top part of the ear and the back part of our side section. This is where we stop our back section. Moving on to the sides, we can release our side section, release the remainder of the back section, and put these 2 sections together. This will help us keep control of the hair while we're working. To do the sides, we begin in the sideburn area. If we start too high up, this area would be very dark and it would stand out like a sore thumb. So starting again with the diagonal, coming into the very low part, it will be a very small foil, but it is part of the hair and it also needs to be considered when doing the foils. And again, maintaining our 1/8 inch, another diagonal part, just an 1/8 inch above that. Here we will intersect this right across, following our diagonal, intersecting right into the back foil. Continuing with our weaves. At this point, we will start to assess our back and our side panels. I have crisscrossed the side and the back foil, thus allowing or not having a dark part right along here. If we were to bring the two foils together at a part, we would create a dark part right through there, which would stand out. So by overlapping these foils, we will eliminate the dark part there. Also, as we can see, the back panel here is quite wide. I had stopped there because that's about as wide as the foil will be. And we cannot do foils where our section is wider than the foils. So I need to narrow this down by coming to the side and intersecting. I will narrow down my sections. Taking another one, coming up, intersecting 1/8 of an inch up into that back foil, also creating a slight pie-shaped part, narrower at the front than at the back, because we will bring these foils around so that it will match the parting up here. So as we move up, we will take slight pie-shaped sections, 1/8 of an inch wide here, to very little at the front. At this point, I can assess if I'd like to put another one here, or if I'd like to come to the back and apply another one to the back, because I now have room for that foil. We can see the foil, how it started like that. Now we're almost parallel or horizontal. It's also important that you center the foil on that section so we have foil on each side of the section to fold over. The dull, as I mentioned, the dull side of the foil is facing you with the fold. The purpose of that is the shiny side it will attract heat better than the dull side will. And heat is important in your foils to process your color. So the shiny side is a better heat absorber than the dull side. I will come back to the side. So for the rest of the way in this section on the side, I will maintain the same diagonal to my top part. Here we will maintain the same diagonal, 1/8 inch, right across the whole section. So my last section on the top, as you can see, why I created that diagonal from the very beginning, because as I get to the top, it is now a straight part. If we would create a straight from the bottom, as we got up, our foil would be like this, which would not be correct. We need to maintain that part that goes from the back. And our last one, so you can see the parting is the same as the foil. So we have completed the back and the two sides. Important, we could see the foils overlap on both sides. They're balanced down the center. We have the same amount of foils on each side. We could see through the side here how I started my diagonal this way, and now you could see how the foils turn around to come this way. Very important to create that natural look. We are making straight lines on a circle. So we have to use a lot of diagonals and such in order for it to look natural. So we will now move to the front section, top section of our model. The hair is parted, as I mentioned earlier, where the hair decides to grow forward and grow back. This allows the foil to sit in the hair's natural position, not forcing it to go anywhere it doesn't want to go. We start at the front, taking again a small section. If we have a peak, we want to take a very small piece of that peak first. Otherwise, we would end up with too thick of a section on the top, and it would be too dark in the front. So we start with a small section at the peak, making sure we get the lightness evenly throughout. Again, very fine weaves. Holding the hair. At the front here, the hair in many cases is shorter. We could go in with a shorter foil and then moving again to a longer foil as the hair lengthens. A 1/8 inch section, hold the hair straight up so we can see what we're parting, making sure it is straight. Hold the hair up when you weave it. If you hold it down, you will go right through that entire section. I will demonstrate what happens when we take a weave too deep into the section. The foil in itself will sit much, much, much too far away from that root. The color will start about here, so your client will have a root demarcation prior to being completed this foil. So we will take, again, along the very surface, nice, fine highlights, weaves. And there's the difference in the closeness to the root. So when I apply the color to the fold, the color in the foil will expand and creep itself to the root of the hair without coming out of the foil. Again, very important, the hair is folded on the outside, or the foil itself is folded on the outside of the section. We'll continue to work across the top till we run out of hair to highlight. When we do highlights, we use a metal steel tail comb to weave our foils. It is the best tool we have for that. The point on it can get into the hair and get really nice, fine foils or weaves for you. So we're coming up to our last piece. And this piece, even though we leave hair in between each foil, we still foil this very last piece. We must remember, this is the area where the hair changes its direction. So if that hair happens to fall and it exposes this area, this would be left dark. So we even go into this last piece and we foil this last piece also. With longer hair, we can take the hair and move it to the side for the client and just clip it lightly to that foil so she can see what she's doing and be more comfortable. So here we have a full set of foils. Sides, back. There's quite a few foils in there. There's got to be over 50 foils in that head. So just to recap, even sections. You need to start straight right down the center back so your two panels for balance and for foil placement are the same. We start with a diagonal down, continuing all the way up to the top. To the sides, we start with a diagonal down, slightly pie shapes so we can turn that foil as we come up. And we interlock or overlap the corners of the sides and the backs to prevent a dark line from the side and the back panels.